It's obviously, like, I don't know, when you did the stuff there, it's like, it's the getting started, but it's always, I don't know why, I always find it a bit weird to get started. So, maybe. Smiley faces. Right. Hey, hi everyone, Andy Muir here, co-founder of Coach Logic. I am joined by Grant Hathaway from England Rugby, who can introduce himself. Do you want to introduce yourself, Grant? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, hi Andy. So for me, I work for England Rugby. I was formerly part of the player pathway team and doing a little bit of coach development, primarily around the level 3 as it was then, now the advanced award. My job has now become fully coach development, which is good. It's a really interesting part of our work. And I do that across all different kinds of courses, right from our kids first tag all the way up to level 3 as advanced, like I said. Do lots of mentoring within that, as well as interacting with clubs and CBs to try and provide sort of a training offer that fits the need. In terms of my own coaching, I still coach an adult rugby side down in southwest London at level 5 CS Stags. My own coaching journey has taken me right through to level 4, which I've completed, and I'm currently doing a master's in coaching as well. So I'm always looking to try and evolve myself as a coach as well as a coach developer.
Cool, awesome. So busy man.
Busy.
So I guess context for this conversation, saw a video or a conversation that you had with Mark Hutton, who is one of the England Rugby Coaching Award candidates for this year. And yeah, I think it'd be cool to sort of dig into that sort of award and just sort of a little bit about that and the range of participants, and obviously the reason for the Mark Hutton conversation as well, around sharing his experience of being a relatively new coach, but the stuff that he's picked up and being able to share that within the community and how valuable that is. So do you want to just maybe share a little bit about that, sort of what the coaching award is and just the real range of participants, I guess, you get on that award?
Yeah, so it used to be known as that level 2, but with the cessation of UKCC, we don't have levels anymore. So the England Rugby Coaching Award is like an equivalent for people that, if they're talking in old money, that's they know it as that. The England Rugby Coaching Award is really based on sort of quite entry-level coaches who are looking to try and inform their practice around how they coach. Primarily focused now, we've shifted our competence focus to include really safe and effective coaching around the more safety-based elements of the game, so scrum and contact and the whole contact area, as well as using things like Activate, which is our program to try and improve sort of the prehab of players so that they're safe from things like concussion and injury. Obviously, as we know, like player welfare is front and centre, but we've got a lot of research to back that program. So we're trying to make sure that coaches can implement those things really well. And also, I think what's another really important part of our competencies is our core values and understanding how those manifest themselves as coach behaviours and how we can try and encourage our players to show them, which is the Mark Hutton example about how he did that, which I thought was a really excellent use of creative skill, even though he didn't have much coaching experience. So that kind of gives a rough overview of the course. I mean, the one we're doing currently is we've done a lot of front loading with webinars and online just because of the situation, and face-to-face days are kicking off now, but the format will shift back to more sort of face-to-face.
So nice segue there into the core values, I guess. And
sure,
obviously in rugby you work on TREADS. I'll let you share what TREADS is, and then maybe just a brief overview of the conversation you had with Mark as well.
Yeah, sure. So teamwork, respect, enjoyment, discipline and sportsmanship are all really critical behaviours that we want to show, and we want our young players and adult players to make sure they embody when they're on and off the rugby pitch. So it's integral to everything we do. We talk about it a lot as colleagues at work as well. So it's something we try and live by, and we want to try and role model as coach developers. Me treating everybody with respect on the course and making sure it's inclusive, that I create an enjoyable atmosphere, that it's not too serious, and that it's applicable for the people at that level where they feel they are in their confidence and competence. So yeah, it's I think it's sort of incumbent on all of us to take ownership of the core values, and that helps distinguish rugby as a really strong sport for recruiting and retaining players. In terms of the Mark Hutton example, he's a great guy. He's based at Cleve in Bristol, and thankfully, like the use of your platform, Coach Logic, meant that we could sort of touch base online, and then we took that conversation into a phone call, which we recorded. And Mark, he was wondering how we could change some of the behaviours of some of his more challenging young players. They're only kids, and we need to help them form good habits in how they behave. So he created some challenge cards, and he gave them out to players at the start of their sessions, and it was up to them to try and understand, okay, well, this is what teamwork looks like. Here is a very clear example of how I can then go and show that. And the thing I liked most about it was he was trying to create behaviour change through showing what he wanted to see, rather than saying, don't do that. He's saying, try this. I think that's really, really important. There's a massive difference. And he said from day one, they've had great success. And he's already looking at how he can progress it. So it's a really good example, and hopefully people will check out his post. Yeah,
it's awesome. Like on Sunday morning, coach maybe is the loosest sense of the words. 6 and now some of them turning 7-year-olds. And that, like, it was a great example. I loved the idea of the cards, and then, like you say, with the show me doing the behaviours. It's pretty cool. And I just even think, so I've not quite done it yet, but how can I bring that into even the sessions I do? So it was great to, I guess, we're kind of be a part of that community with Coach Logic indirectly, if you like. So it's great to be able to see that. And if it's okay, maybe just moving on to the power of a community of practice in that sense, and around about you being able to have that conversation with Mark and share that in essence amongst his peers, and how powerful that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's if without wishing to get too theoretical, self-determination and what's important to us as human beings, it's autonomy is one of those things, isn't it? And actually the beauty of a really well-structured community of practice, and the way things are going on Coach Logic, we're starting to really build that, is that people have sort of autonomy over their learning. And that's really important in adult learning theory, that actually adults want that and how they develop. So it gives us the opportunity to share ideas that are important to us, and not be too. When we're on course, we obviously have competencies and there's a level of curriculum, but actually there's these things which just come up, these challenges we all face, and the community of practice allows that more informal learning, which most people probably appreciate a little bit more. So you're getting the autonomy and the mastery within it. I think also, I mean, the nature of it, certainly for me, I have it on my phone as well as on my laptop. So if I'm just sat in front of the telly and I think about something, or I fancy reading and seeing what someone else is up to, I can just pop on there. So the app for me is a really useful tool that I would advise other people to try, because it's actually made it easier for me to engage with the platform. And then it becomes just a part of my everyday, rather than me having to log onto my laptop. But yeah, I think the impact of community practices is really, really wide. I would advise anybody to try and find a way to form a community of practice, whether that's within their clubs, across clubs, or just other like-minded people they meet on courses, for example.
Yeah, cool. And just thinking about that community of practice, and how, I suppose there's like this sort of mutual engagement, if you like, within that, but there's also, again, bringing out examples of Mark. We keep using him, and he spoke to Amy as well about their actual experiences. It helps to share those unique experiences that everyone's having within this sort of shared space. And what was I guess one thing I was thinking as well is, like, what was the sort of feedback's maybe not the right word, but what was the engagement and feedback that came off the back of those types of conversations that maybe you might not have been able to get otherwise?
Yeah, it's I think it's really important that we bring some things to life. If someone shares something in the community, I think it's really important that we don't just, I think commenting on those posts is great, but actually when we see something that's got real value, we should show that person that it has real value. And it's not just because I work for England Rugby, you know, the job I do. Everybody should do that with everybody, because it's catching people doing the right thing, like Mark did with his players. We need to do that, and then it perpetuates those positive behaviours. People want to share more, and they'll probably feel more comfortable to share some of the stuff that isn't going so well as the positives, right? So I think there's a few things there certainly that I'd sort of push coaches to find a different way of interacting. Not just, you know, a common way is like, I'm on a couple of WhatsApp groups, I'm sure you are as well, which is similar, where you're sharing ideas with other coaches. But that isn't really where the richness is. That's the start point for something else, which you can then pull on a thread, and then you pick up the phone and you go, oh, that was really interesting, tell me more. Or what can we do with that next? So it's the first step is sharing in the community, and the second step is really what makes things land and helps translate from sort of knowledge to genuine understanding. It's like, I'm thinking about this thing, well, how do I apply it? It's about someone then pushing to say, okay, well, how can... So like for me, it was, I saw Mark, he posted this great thing, there's some good chat around it. How can we bring it to life and try and create a bigger ripple, you know?
Yeah, it's cool. I like that idea of the bringing it to life. And you mentioned a phrase there that I think I've heard Damien's use a few times, and it's probably not the only person that talks about, like, catching people in rather than catching people out. So that idea of if they're smashing something, like, let people know and let them know and what have you as well, which is cool. Right, it's cool. It's really interesting. I guess a couple of things just in terms of how you guys are, because I guess the important thing is about with that community of practice is that you need the community engaged, but you also need people to drive it, you know, and make it happen. So maybe just a little bit about how you guys are managing that within your because you guys are working within teams, aren't you, and how you're managing that?
Yes, yeah. So what we've had is, also over the last sort of 4 months or so, there's been a number of different events. Like I mentioned earlier, we've had to do a lot of stuff online to front load and feed forward, as it were. So candidates have been able to go on, and I think it's been really, really good actually to get the conversation going so that they can think about things. I'm a reflector. I like to take my time when I've had to think about it. So I think it's given people that opportunity. And month on month, we've had different sections of my team. We're split into divisions, so North, Midlands, South East and South West. And then each division has taken a month to engage with people via Coach Logic to set up an evening. So every week there'd be an evening where people could come on, ask questions, engage with the questions that we're asking as well. So there was, and during that period where there was so many webinars and things, there was loads to talk about. And we've had themes to make sure that actually we're not overlapping too much as well. Towards the end of our month, we realised that actually engagement was slightly lower, and it was for a number of reasons, which are completely fair. You know, people have got a lot else on, and the return to rugby, actually, I think we probably underestimated how much people were getting back and doing their coaching on a Wednesday night instead of necessarily being able to come on Coach Logic. So we just jigged it around a little bit and just tried to engage with people during the days. So one example, I spent half an hour and I just went through historic posts, and I found ways of saying, okay, well, I really liked that, or Andy, I noticed that you talked about this being a problem and this was the solution. How's it now going? So we looked at sort of more creative ways of trying to draw on areas where there could be conversation, as well as now starting to feed forward. And the Amy example that you've used was, okay, well, how are you feeling about going on a so we've sort of looked at sort of historical, current, and then what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's cool. Keeping the conversation going as well, right? Where I guess that it gives that opportunity to iterate, if you like, on the development of the coaches, rather than it being, you know, sort of we're going to do this now and then we move on and we never sort of talk about it again. So so just, I guess, you know, last thing, just maybe quite broadly in terms of how important you see technology now in the coaching journey as such.
Oh, Andy. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, you guys at Coach Logic have pushed things forward for us all, and given us a platform which, you know, and I've seen the evolution of Coach Logic over the last few years since I started using it actually as a coach. Was the first time I engaged with it. It was always really good for helping me to clip videos and stuff like that. But now I'm really seeing the benefits of using it for actually engaging with people as individuals and groups. I think technology is one of those things. I mean, I think we've all said it at some point over this last year. Why did we never use Teams more to save on travel? Or why did we never? So I think that whilst we work in coaching and it's about human interaction, and there's only so much you and I can get from this. But I know when I see you next, we can refer back to this and have a chat, and it will be something we can talk about. I guess it's just the use of technology is just another learning tool. So what my preferences might be, and I mentioned I'm more of a reflector, the use of video, I'm a bit of a visual preference, I would say. So it gives me an opportunity to look back on things. So like I video my coaching and I can go back and I can think, okay, well, what did I do there? What was I know I was feeling something in the moment, but actually against what I'm trying to do as a coach. I think technology is absolutely essential for the coach that's really conscientious about what they're saying and what they're doing. And for me, whilst this year has been incredibly difficult in so many ways, I think we've had to explore some stuff that maybe we were a bit shy about before it sort of happened. So the silver lining is things like Coach Logic. I can use this medium to talk to you and to talk to my mentees and to talk to. So there's more interactions potentially, but they'll never replace the face-to-face. I think it's just now finding the balance between the two that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, yeah, from our point of view, it's always about how do we enhance and support the face-to-face stuff. Like, I think, I don't know where I got it, but people talk about sport being like the ultimate people business, you know, so you need to be with people, right? But yeah, if there's opportunities to enhance and support those interactions and what have you, that's really important. So that's awesome, Grant. Thanks very much for that. Just final thing, I'm going to ask you. There is loads of opportunities within England Rugby about like where do you go like to find out more information about all the sort of stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, sure. There's loads of stuff on the englandrugby.com website. So if they go to participation and there's coaching, there's obviously refereeing and lots of other stuff, and there's tons of resources on there. I mentioned about like Activate, for example. There's loads of free downloads and opportunities there to connect with some of the content I've been talking about. There's regular updates. There's a number of different Twitter handles which you can use. There's England Rugby Coach on Instagram, and there's all kinds of, so we're trying to use multiple platforms to get out there and share with people. There's Facebook groups and different things like that. So whichever medium you prefer, one of those things is great. And yeah, come and ask questions, come and find out, but try and find a course on GMS would be your best bet, and come and interact with us face to face.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, thanks very much for that, Grant. Really appreciate your time, loving the work you guys are doing, and look forward to seeing more.
Nice.
Cheers.
Yeah, good to see you soon, Andy. Cheers.
Right, that was